people to be afraid of how much they love me.
Matt Skraby wraps up a full day of live and local sports talk.
And that is the whole problem with aliens. You just can't trust them. Occasionally you meet a nice one, but usually they turn out to be some kind of big lizard.
The Skraby Show starts now on 97.3 The Fan.
Hello and welcome into the Skraby Show for October 21st, 2025. Thank you for joining me. You can watch if you would like, as with every other show on 97.3 The Fan. You can watch. You can go to YouTube, just search 97.3 The Fan. Also on my Skraby Show YouTube, it's youtube.com/@ symbol The Skraby Show, and you'll be able to find it there. Also, you can watch it on Twitter or X if you go to @Matt Skraby. And that's all the different places you can. Actually, no, that's not all the different places. You can go to Twitch, 97.3 The Fan, and then Facebook, 97.3 The Fan. So there are plenty of ways for you to watch the show and watch every show here on the station because everybody now does it. And I was talking to someone over the weekend and they were like, how long have you been doing the video for? And I said, about 2 years now. And I remember before we started doing the video for the show, Gwen and Chris, I fought so hard against it because I did not think that I wanted to be on camera all the time. That's one of the reasons I got into radio, honestly, was so that I didn't have to dress up. And so I didn't have to, it's not like I'm dressing up now. I'm always in a sweatshirt, but it's not like I, had to put makeup on. So I loved being in the radio thing because I didn't have to deal with cameras. But now radio has turned into multi-purposed. It's used for video and it's now used for the radio waves as well. But I'm used to the camera now. It's definitely, I forget it's there at certain points in times. And Chris, I know he does it as well. But cameras have been good. And the feedback from everyone on YouTube has been awesome as well. You can go and follow and subscribe. I'm about to tell everybody when I'm going to do my 2 special Skraby shows that are outside of being on the air. And they're going to be on YouTube. I'm going to do a Rubik's Cube for one. And the other, I'm going to do a bunch of old radio audio. So that's going to happen. So you just go to @The Skraby Show on YouTube, subscribe, and you'll be able to find those when I do them. Also, Gwen and Chris have a YouTube now. So go to @Gwen and Chris SD on YouTube. You'll be able to find it there and you can subscribe. We're going to do some more of the behind the scenes content, all of that. So now that I have that out of the way, we can get into it. And what I want to get into real quick first, it's not a local story or anything like that. We kind of just talked about it on the show with Tony and Chris, but I the Woody Johnson comments about Justin Fields do not sit well with me. And I think if I'm a player, I would not be happy with this either. Because Woody Johnson is just trashing Justin Fields in front of all these reporters. And I think it's very, very, very misplaced. And if you haven't heard it, here is what happened today. I think they're doing like the mid-year meetings. And so he was asked about quarterback play, but here's the interaction with the reporters.
What's your confidence level in Aaron to turn it around?
Well, it looks like he's turning around parts of it. It's hard when you have a quarterback with, with a rating that we got. He has the ability, but something just is not jiving. But if you look at any head coach with a quarterback like that, you're going to see similar results if you are across the league. You have to play consistently with, at that position, and that's what we're going to try to do for the remainder of the season.
All right, so he keeps going on like this, and the reason I say players won't like it is because, like, when is he going to turn on them? And these comments are so misplaced because this is a situation that Woody Johnson put himself in, and so this is like he's mad that his team hasn't won a game yet this year. He's mad that his team has been kind of a laughing stock the last few years. But I seem to remember the Jets doing whatever they could to get Aaron Rodgers in a uniform. They traded some picks. They paid Aaron Rodgers a ton of money. Now, he was hurt in the first game. He tore his Achilles, so that was, outside of the norm. But you put yourself in this position, Woody Johnson. If you were able to go and develop a quarterback or go hire the right people, I'm not saying Aaron Glenn's not the right guy. I think he's starting with an uphill battle to begin with. But when I see an owner singularly trashing a player like his own, player for his own team, there's something wrong with that owner. And Woody Johnson, it doesn't surprise me. Everything that has been done by the Jets over the years has been awful and just bad and misguided. And I when he's talking about, let's point all of our fingers at the quarterback position, I point my finger right back at the guy who owns the team. You're the one who's ultimately making decisions here. You threw your franchise into flux because you wanted Aaron Rodgers to be in a Jets uniform. And you did the thing that every owner is guilty of. I can't say every owner, but the bad owners. And that's placing blame elsewhere. When good owners have, struggles throughout their season, they say they have faith in their team. They say they have faith in everything. They know that it's going to get turned around. And maybe behind closed doors, they're saying, yeah, our quarterback situation is terrible. But to do this in front of the media just tells me everything I need to know about Woody Johnson. I mean, he came from the Johnson & Johnson family, so I guess I was going to go in a different direction. I was going to say he doesn't really know what real life is, but I can't necessarily say that because I don't really know. But as Clay just said on the chat, own it. Own it. Say, hey, we're in this position because myself and the GM and the coach, we haven't been able to find a quarterback. And so we're going to do that. I'm fine with that. But to just put every single thing that has happened this season on Justin Fields, very, very, very misguided. Very misguided. All right, I had to get that out about Woody Johnson because it just didn't make any sense for me. I personally think that Justin Fields can be a good quarterback. I don't know that I could say he's going to be a good quarterback, but I do feel like he's been failed at every level that every team that he's been at in the NFL. He started with the Bears. Things didn't go well there. He went over to the Steelers. Things didn't go well there. And then he goes to the Jets and things are not going well again. I don't understand it. It's just, I go back to Alex Smith, Helix High alum. He was drafted by the 49ers, number 1 overall, and he was labeled a bust by everyone. Because he wasn't playing well. But he was also on a really terrible 49ers team, and he was also on a really terribly coached 49ers team. He had like 11 offensive coordinators while he was there. It's just weird. It's all about situation for some of these guys. It's all about what team that you get put into, what system's already in place. So I can't put it all on Justin Fields. All right. Let's go to something else that I've heard before. And it's Dan Wilson, the manager of the Mariners after the loss last night. Now, he's taking a lot of heat because instead of going to Munoz in the bottom of the 7th inning to pitch to Springer, he ended up going with Bizzardo, and Bizzardo's been pretty good. I've seen a lot of him in the playoffs. But the reason this quote stood out to me, it's another reason why I'm reminded that baseball is extremely difficult. And baseball is a sport that is built upon failure. And what Dan Wilson said, now when I read this, people are going to probably have flashbacks to what has happened with the Padres here in the last couple years. But here's what Dan Wilson said after the game by going with Bizzardo over going with Andres Munoz. He said, quote, Bizzardo's been doing it all season long and has been so consistent at it, and he's done such a good job all year. We felt really comfortable with him out there, the way he's been throwing the ball, especially in this series, and it was a good spot for him, end quote. Sound familiar? Anyone? Sound familiar? That is like something that I've heard from Mike Schilt, something that I've heard from Bob Melvin, something that I've heard from basically every manager ever. And it's just proving to me that if you're a manager, you can make a decision with all of the you can make a decision with every sort of piece of information that you need and put them in a position to succeed. And then baseball will tell you, no, we're not going to let that happen. We're not going to let it succeed. And Bizzardo is going to give up a 3-run shot to George Springer in the bottom of the 7th. So I've heard this a million times this year. I've heard it, maybe not a million, but I've heard it a lot this year, that they felt comfortable with the guy. They went with him, and it just didn't work out, which is why baseball is such a it's why baseball is such a difficult sport for me to really understand, because you think you know what you're talking about with baseball and then you're proven otherwise. And throughout the year, I've heard Mike Schilt say this. I could just substitute the name Wandy Peralta in there. I could substitute the name Jeremiah Estrada in there. I could substitute the name Robert Suarez in there. And you could do everything right and still have a negative result, which is why baseball is so frustrating. I've really come to believe that baseball is the hardest sport to win a championship in, just because so many things have to go right. So many things. Like in basketball, in the NBA, I think you could have a couple guys and still win a title. I know that you still need a team around you, but for the most part, you can change an entire team's fortunes by signing a free agent, like when LeBron went to Miami. In football, it's a team effort, but I still think that with the 17 games that they play, it's not as difficult as it is in baseball. When you're playing 162 games and then you have to go into the playoffs, it's all matchup based. These guys are gassed by the time they get to the postseason. It's a long, grueling season. And so when the Padres come to the end of the year, it doesn't surprise me that they didn't win the World Series, because not many teams, there's only one team that wins the World Series. But it surprised me how it ended for the Padres. I definitely expected a little bit more from them this year. Maybe not even a little bit more. I expected a lot more from the Padres in the playoffs this year. They did not show up in the games that they needed to show up in down the stretch. They could have won the division. They didn't win the division. They could have won some games there against the Cubs in the wild card. Did not win those games because they couldn't hit with runners in scoring position. I mean, the Brewers, as I said yesterday, you can point to a team that was getting timely hits, hitting with runners in scoring position, a similar team to the Padres, not really hitting home runs as much. You could still win, but when your bats go cold, like the Brewers bats did in the NLCS, when they go cold, it is it's a terrible feeling to be in, because you are so helpless as your team just continues to go down guy after guy. It's a tough watch. It's a really, really tough watch. But like I said, I think the Padres expected more from themselves too. I think so. I'm looking at the chat, see if there's anything in there. Let's see. Ooh, fun to hear you talk about the Jets on San Diego radio, though. Thanks, dude. Okay. Calm it down. Oh, wait, never mind. I'm a Jets fan. It sucks when I don't know when things are going to turn around. Sorry, Garrig. I only saw the comment of fun to hear you talk about the Jets on San Diego radio, though. You're welcome, Garrig, because I'm sorry to just trash your team, the Jets. I like good fans. I like fans that stick by their team even when they're terrible teams. So I apologize to Garrig for going at him and then realizing he was just agreeing with me. That was my fault, Garrick. Robert says, congrats on the new girlfriend. Thank you, Robert. Still weird for me to even say. Let me be honest about that. All right. This is the Skraby Show. I'm Matt Skraby. When we get back, I'm going to tell you something about Sam Levitt called me last night. Sam Levitt, the superstar, called me last night, and I'm going to share something that he told me. Also, I thought about it this morning. Just how many different teams, how many playoff appearances they had not before they won a World Series, but since AJ Preller has come on the scene for the Padres in 2014. What are the other teams looking like in regards to playoff appearances and World Series appearances? It's just an informal conversation, but we'll have it when we get back here on the Skraby Show, 97.3 The Fan.
At Sprouts Farmers Market.
I'm going to assume what I just read on the chat is true because it's coming from a good source, but Alejandro Kirk of the Toronto Blue Jays, the catcher, is from Tijuana. And apparently he's the first player to ever play in the World Series from Tijuana. So that's awesome. That is awesome. Good stuff. I like Alejandro Kirk. He seems like I always like when guys, aren't the prototypical athlete body, and he kind of looks like me a little bit, except for I think I'm taller than him, but he's a way better baseball player than me. So that's kind of cool. Not cool for me, but cool for him. But anyway, local guy, he's going to try to take down the Dodgers, and I can get behind that. I can 100% get behind that. All right, I told you before the break, Sammy Lev called me last night. Haven't talked to him in a while. Now, when you get a phone call from Sam Levitt, when you get a phone call from him, you better lock in for about 20, 25 minutes because Sam wants to talk. And I'm fine. I love talking to Sam. We have good conversations. They span in many different directions. But he told me that he is going to be doing some shows here later in the week. And he said they're going to be absolute fire. That's what Sam said. That's what he told me last night. So get ready for the Sam Levitt shows this week. Absolute fire, he says. And I, heard a little behind the scenes of it. It sounds like it's fire. Sam's going to be talking about the managerial position. He's got some good opinions on that. So please make sure you don't miss Sammy Lev on the station later this week. I'm not giving away the time because I don't know if it's been announced yet, but he's going to be in the morning sometime. So just keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on that. Sam's got the gift for gab. Yes. He does have the gift for gab. We all kind of have the gift for gab. That's why we're doing the radio thing. But it was a nice phone call with Sam. He's doing well, I believe. We talked more about baseball and work and things of that nature, more so than what he's doing on a day-to-day basis. Did see that he got a crock pot and he was making crock pot stuff. So, I believe someone said the morning show mentioned yesterday. Okay, cool. Yeah, Sam's going to be on Thursday, Friday morning. Not all 4 hours. I believe 8 to 10 a.m. So look forward to that. I believe Ben and Woods are off. So good for them. All right. I kind of did this morning just as in, like, it started as a personal research project and it ended up being something I wanted to take to the show. But this is not like official business that I'm about to get into. I mean, the stats are there. I looked it up, but I'm not saying that this has determined this has determined that AJ Preller is a good GM or not a good GM, or why the Padres are a good team and franchise and why they're not a good team and franchise. It's just kind of interesting because I was talking about it last segment about how I think baseball is the hardest championship to win. And when you look at some of the teams that have been in the playoffs or the teams that have kind of been relevant over the years, you see a lot of failure before you get to the World Series. And so my question for you all out there, and if you would like to go to the chat at the Skraby Show, you can type in there and you can let me know. But now I've completely lost my train of thought. I was trying to get to something else on my computer and I completely lost my train of thought. Anyway, this just proves to me how long the road is. Okay, here's what I was going to say. Jeez, ADHD all over the place right now. Would you rather, like, for the Diamondbacks, since 2014, since AJ Preller took over the Padres, if you're a Diamondbacks fan, you've had 2 playoff appearances since 2014. One of those ends up in a World Series loss to the Rangers. So would you, like, is that something that you're into? You got to the World Series, because I know that a lot of people tell me about the Padres, well, they can't get over the hump. They can't get to the World Series. They can't win the big games. For me, if I'm a Diamondbacks fan, I'm going to give you that World Series loss back, and I'm going to take some extra playoff years. I don't think that going to the World Series and then losing, like, I don't even know if they got swept. I think they may have got swept, or they lost 4-1 to the Rangers. But then for the last 12 years, 11 years, 12 years, you've only been to the playoffs twice. I don't think I'd rather be in the playoffs more than going to the playoffs once and getting to the World Series and losing. Now, if you win the World Series, that's a whole nother thing. If you win it, then, there's a lot of people out there that will say that that they won't be so critical of the team after they win a World Series. But I don't know if that's true. I feel like once we get the World Series, it makes you hungry for more. And you're going to keep wanting a World Series. I don't believe that winning a World Series for the Padres is going to get people off their back for a couple of years. I don't believe that. I think the next spring training, it's going to be how are we going to repeat, which, I don't hate, because that's kind of what we do as fans. But the Padres themselves, since AJ Preller's taken over, 4 playoff appearances, 2 in the last 2 years, and then you have the 2021, and then you have the 2022 NLCS. So in the last, since 2020, Padres have been in the playoffs 4 times. They haven't, made it to the World Series or anything, but I think 4 times is better than 2 times in a loss like the Diamondbacks. Now, if you go into the Blue Jays, since 2014, they've had 6 playoff appearances and only this 1 World Series appearance. So we don't know if they're going to win the World Series, but they have had 6 since 2014. So it's, this is a team that's always, for the most part, spending money, trying to compete, putting together good rosters. So if the Blue Jays go 6 times and they've only made the World Series once, like, how many times do the Padres have to go before they actually make the World Series? Now, here's another one. Mariners. Since 2014, the Mariners have only made the playoffs twice. I feel for you, Mariners fans. I feel for you. It's a good thing that you won the Vetter Cup, because you have that to hold over the San Diego Padres fans' heads. But 2 playoff appearances since 2014 is nightmare fuel for Mariners fans, for any baseball fan. If you go to the Yankees since 2014, 9 playoff appearances, 1 World Series appearance, and a loss last year to the Dodgers. If you're looking at the Rangers, now they did win a World Series title a couple years ago. And since 2014, they've only been to the playoffs 3 times, but they have that 1 World Series title. So that buys them a little bit. And then you got like the Astros. This is crazy. The Astros since 2014, it's insane. 9 playoff appearances, 4 World Series appearances, and 2 World Series titles. Now that is something that's just generational greatness right there. That's really hard to do over a long period of time. That is really hard to do. And I'm seeing on the chat that the Padres have been in the World Series. I know that. I'm talking about since 2014, because that's more recent, and it's kind of giving me a line of demarcation when AJ Preller was hired and what teams have done since then. If you go to the Phillies, now here's a team that is picked to do well, seems like every single year. Here's a team with a huge budget. Here's a team with superstars. And since 2014, they have only been in the playoffs 4 times. They do have a World Series appearance. They lost to the Astros 2022. So the Phillies, if I'm a Phillies fan, I'm considering this kind of a failure, because they put a ton of money into this team. And only 4 playoff appearances since 2014. Not good enough for me as a Phillies fan. Nationals, 4 playoffs since 2014. They do have that World Series title in 2019. But in the last 6 seasons, you had no playoff teams in the last 6 seasons for the Nationals. So are you, if you're a fan out there, are you thinking, hey, We got our World Series 6 years ago. We got our World Series 6 years ago, and we haven't been back to the playoffs since. I don't think that's going to sit well with anyone. I feel like once the Padres win a championship, expectations are going to go higher for the Padres. Braves, 7 playoffs since 2014, 1 World Series title. And then another National League West team, the Giants, 3 playoff appearances since 2014, 1 World Series title, which came in 2014, and they have not made the playoffs since 2021. That's also a failure if I'm a Giants fan, because over the last 11, 12 years, you've only been in the playoffs 3 times, but you did win a World Series, but that was a long time ago. That was a long time ago, and it doesn't buy you anything as you go forward. Dodgers, though, this is the most ridiculous of them all. 12 playoff appearances for the Dodgers. They lost the World Series twice before winning in 2020. And I will bring it all back to the conversation I had about the Detroit Lions last year. And that was when they lost the NFC Championship to the Commanders. Wait, was it the Commanders? No, it was a divisional game. Sorry. They lost the divisional game to the Commanders. And I came on here and I said, they just haven't done enough losing yet. Because if you look at championship teams, for the most part, you do lose a lot more than you win. And it takes time to get to that level. Some teams can just show up and do it, like the Chiefs. But most teams are not like the Chiefs. Most teams have to work really hard and lose a lot of tough games in order to find what they need to get over the hump. Smash the Numbers says, checking in from New Mexico to support Scrabinators. Thank you, Smash the Numbers. Detroit had 4 Cy Young winner on the same team. They all won championship with other teams. None won in Detroit. Sad. That is sad. You should be able to win a championship if you got 4 Cy Young pitchers on there. The Padres have done the World Series appearance and lost without returning to the playoffs for a while. The Padres always being competitive is way better. I like that. Would you rather them go to the World Series and not make the playoffs for 14 straight years? I don't think many people would like that. I don't think many people like that at all. Death by Palm Tree. Skraby showing off that gift of gab. Thank you very much, Death by Palm Tree. Both the Chiefs' Super Bowl losses were pretty brutal. Yeah, but then they got right back to it. But they were. I mean, Tom Brady and the Buccaneers silenced Patrick Mahomes, and then last year, Eagles silenced Patrick Mahomes as well. Dominic, some teams just lose those tough games and don't end up winning. Ugh, that is true. The 90s Bills, they lost 4 Super Bowls in a row, and they're still waiting to get back. So winning championships, going deep into the playoffs in these professional sports, not easy, people. Not easy. I'm not excusing the Padres from that, because they definitely have had teams that could compete. But all of this losing will make it all worth it once they win a title, I promise. You're listening to the Skraby Show. I'm Matt Skraby, 97.3 The Fan. When we get back, I have my Halloween movie that I'm going to share with everyone. We got a daily gripe, and then we have a story. It's going to go away from baseball. Parents have gone a little too far at one high school, and I'll tell you why when we get back here on 97.3 The Fan.
Quinn and Chris on
Final segment of the Skraby Show for tonight. Got another show tomorrow and then a show Friday. I feel like the weeks have just been racing by ever since the Padres season ended. Feels like time is just moving at an all-time high as of late, which is good, I guess. I could be saying that it takes too long for the day to go by and I'm bored all the time, but I'm not. I'm not bored all the time. I'm watching the new returning NBA on NBC, and on the bottom score bug between the Rockets and the Thunder, that's who's playing right now. But on the bottom they call it a score bug, where they put the scores and the time and the quarter and all that. When they make a three, Tony and I noticed this. Well, Tony noticed it before I did. But when someone makes a three, at least in this game, here's someone going to shoot a three. He did not make it, but it puts up three fingers like you made the three, like a referee would do it. And it adds it to the score. I think it's a weird little detail, but they definitely have it doing that, where they give you three fingers for 3 points. I don't know. I find the whole AI thing a little weird too, with the man who did the voice back in the day. I'm trying to remember his name. I'm not going to be able to remember it. But he did the NBA on NBC voice back in the day, but they're going to do it now through AI, which I find a little strange. I find it really just a money-saving opportunity. Don't know that that's, the truth, but if they can just type in a few words in a computer and have this guy's voice pump it out, then why not, I guess, right? I'd much rather have a new voice rather than someone who has passed away. I think that's a little strange. All right. We still got the Halloween movie. We still got the Daily Gripe. But I came across this earlier today, and it was weird because there was a football coach at Skyline High School in Washington State, and he was suspended. Sorry, I'm just going to go back to this comment. Dominic says, do through AI equals clip someone's salary. That's exactly what it was. They just didn't want to pay for it. Sorry. Skyline High School suspended this football coach, Peyton Pelluer. I'm sorry I'm pronouncing your name wrong. I could not find a phonetic pronunciation. But they suspended him, and their team is, I believe, at the time 4-2. And so things are okay. This is like one of those schools in Washington where if you're good at football, you're going to go play there. And they have some NFL guys that have come out of there. They've had some good college players coming out of there. And so what happened was the coach was suspended. Coach Peyton, I'm going to call him. Coach Peyton was suspended. And then on Monday, after they won 49-14 last week, Skyline assistants resigned on Monday in support of the coach, and they wrote a letter to the Issaquah School District, and Spartans assistant Gino Simone said that the coach came under fire because, and this is where it caught my attention, because, quote, a very small but vocal minority of parents has been allowed to exert outsized influence over our program. So here's the story. There are a few parents on this team, and those parents are extremely loud and boisterous, saying that the coach is not playing the right guys, not playing the right players. And the school suspended the coach for this. Like, first off, school, whoever made this decision to actually go ahead and suspend him, you need to take a big look in the mirror, because you're part of the problem here. You're letting a couple parents, and we talk about this a lot on Gwen and Chris, and I talk about this a lot in social media in general. It's hard to remember sometimes that on social media, it's maybe 20 or 30 really loud people in a given conversation. That's a hot topic. but most people don't feel the way that those people do. And so you have these parents that go to the school and say that he is not doing the right thing as the coach. He's not playing the right players. And apparently they complained so much that they suspended him for the game. They reinstated him. But the problem here is that, and I'm just going to read the statement from one of the coaches or one of the parts of the statement, because they say it better than I could. Quote, "We believe this action sets a deeply troubling precedent, one that allows personal grievances and subjective dissatisfaction to override coaching integrity, player accountability, and the competitive principles that define high school athletics. Football, at its core, is meant to teach effort, perseverance, teamwork, and personal responsibility. These lessons cannot thrive when leadership decisions are undermined by those unwilling to accept the realities of competition. This program has produced state champions, collegiate athletes, and future community leaders, all forged through the standards and culture that coaches like Peyton have upheld at Skyline. To see that culture undermined by external pressures contradicts everything Skyline football stands for." And then he had some players, had some players back him up on social media, players that played for him formerly, saying that he was a great coach. He is a good, he doesn't just create football players, he creates men, he creates a good environment. So when we were talking a little bit earlier about Chris Hauser, Mission Hills football coach, former Mission Hills football coach, is resigning because of some hazing allegations. Again, I don't know what happened, nor I know the truth or anything like that. So I'm not going to say something's true if I don't know it. But I know that this coach, Coach Peyton of Skyline High in Washington, did nothing like that. He was not involved in hazing. He was not involved in any funny business. So this coach was effectively suspended because some parents were mad that they weren't playing his kid. My mind goes in a million directions on this. First, I already said it. The person who made the decision to suspend him is part of the problem, because you let a bunch of people that are just yelling at you because their kids aren't playing to win. Number two, this tells me that the school values, and let me just go look at Skyline. I should have looked at this earlier to see if it's a private school or not, because that would tell me a lot as well. And I think it might be because it's a big football school, so it leads me to believe that it's a private school, and I'm not getting anything right off the bat. So maybe it's not a private school. Let's see. Our school. This is really great. This is really great. Yeah, I can't figure that out right now. But let me say this. If it is a school where you have to pay to go to, that is the principal or whoever made this decision bowing to the money, which I do not like either. I cannot stand bowing to the money, which is what a lot of people do. But if this is a public school, my thoughts are stop letting parents win when they complain so much to the people in charge that you get the coach suspended. It's ridiculous. I don't have any kids, but I can tell you right now, if I do ever have any kids, I'm not going to be going to the coach or going to the school administrators and telling them that they need to suspend the coach because he's not playing. He's not playing the right players. That's not their decision. That's not their decision at all. That is the decision made by people in the know. And the person who was in the know completely dropped the ball on this whole thing. This teaches them nothing. Yeah, C20 says, didn't they reinstate him? They did today. So he's back. But the fact that he was suspended in the first place is a huge problem for me. And it just kind of shows a little bit where society is right now. And if you get 3 or 4 people on social media making a lot of noise, people are going to listen. But I think we need to fight back against that.
What's annoying Skraby today? Let's find out. It's time for the Daily Gripe.
Oh, wait, I didn't do my Halloween thing. All right, let me do my Daily Gripe, and then I'll do the Halloween thing. Let's see. All right, here's what I'll go with. I do know that I'm trying to figure out how to say this. Okay, everybody knows I have a girlfriend now. One of the things that we don't argue about, we discuss a lot. And one of my gripes is this. We'll be like, hey, where do you want to go for dinner? And I'll say a place. And then it's, okay, let's go there. And then 10 minutes later, it's a different place. Okay, let's go there. 10 minutes after that, it's, oh, now I actually want to go back to the other place. I'm really feeling getting, what was one of the items? Mac and cheese. I really love the mac and cheese from this place. I want to go there. And then, we get in the car, start going over there. Oh, no. I made up my mind. I want to go to the other place. My daily gripe is this. When I have a plan to go to a restaurant, I want to go to the restaurant. I have a plan in my mind. I'm going to this restaurant. I probably haven't thought about what I'm going to eat, but I may have thought about what I'm going to eat. So, if you're listening, you know who you are. Just pick a place. Pick a place. Oh, man, everybody in the chat is telling me, just get used to it. That's everyday life for a married man, says Juan. Oh, get used to it, says David. She better be a Padres fan, says Trevor. Massive Padres fan. David again says, coming up on 10 years married to my wife. It will happen. And this is marriage, dude. You gotta roll. We're not married yet. And we're not married. C20 says, she is always right, Skraby. You may not realize it at first, but eventually you will get there. Tony and Chris tell me this stuff all the time. But that's my daily gripe. My Halloween movie is something, it's kind of an off-beaten movie, but it's on Prime Video a lot. And it was made in 2015. It's a found footage movie. So it's like, it's someone went into an abandoned house and they found a video camera with all this footage. Hell House LLC is the movie, and it freaked me out the first time I saw it. They kind of go to these different areas of the country and they put on a Halloween house, and this one turns it out to be very haunted. So it's pretty creepy. Hell House LLC. All right, thank you everybody for listening. Back tomorrow with more on 97.3 The Fan. Good night.